Hey everybody, Edo here, and for this week's League video, I wanted to talk about a blog post by Jamey Stegmaier. Now, he does tons of blog posts. They're pretty regular. I don't know if it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or twice a week, or whatever, but he does them all the time, and they're great reads. So if you're not familiar with him, get familiar with him. I'm sure you are, but you might not be getting his blog posts. I highly recommend you get his blog posts. They're about Stonemaier games, they're about Kickstarters, they're about all different sorts of things, and I really recommend it. And as I said, I get them and I read them all the time. He posted one this week, 10 simple skills to build today so you can be a better crowdfunder tomorrow, and I thought it was awesome. I read through it, and it was so full of concrete examples of ways to be better that I just loved it. So actually in this video, what I want to do is I'm gonna read it. Perhaps you don't like reading and you like watching videos. I'm not going to read it word for word, but I want to go through with it. I'll add some comments, but it's not like I disagree here. I don't know. This might not be another perspective video. This might be like a Edo Amplifies video or something. I got to figure what it is, but I just want to share his thing. I reached out to him. He thought it was fine. He actually suggested I add a few at the end, which I will. So first he just talks about some of the base core skills that you need for crowdfunding that he learned through another job. One was customer service, and he talked about being a waiter for 2 summers in college. He talked about project management, which he learned at a medical book publishing company. And if you see my Q&A with Jamey Stegmaier, he talks about that. And lastly, he learned about fundraising and marketing while working at a campus facility. I'd actually add that you need to also, in that category, is like expert in whatever you're kickstarting. Like there's one other piece in here, which is board games or movies or whatever it is you're doing on crowdfunding. You need that last piece, not just knowing how to do it, not doing the customer service, project management, fundraising and marketing, but also getting that base thing together, that nugget of joy or gold, whatever you're selling on the crowdfunding service. You need to be an expert in that. So that would be the only thing I'd add to that first list of 3 bullets, but that's really good. He then talks about 10 simple skills and what you can do. So first, it's start a fight with a stranger and lose. He lets you can do it on social media, but it just has to do with how you deal with and handle a negative conversation and how you can get comfortable not always trying to be right. I don't think that's for everyone, but for sure, being defensive or trying to win an argument is something you might do in person. But when it comes to a Kickstarter, when it comes to crowdfunding, when it comes to customer service, you might not subscribe to the customer's always right, but you need to be able to handle that situation and have that conversation. So that's a great one. Next one is spend a day saying no to everything without using the word no. And he talks a lot in this blog, but in other blogs, about how you need to be able to politely reject somebody or say no or not do something. Easy examples of this on a Kickstarter are things like, hey, why don't you add a solo mode to your game? Hey, what do you think of a stretch goal that triples your production costs? Hey, like all these asks from people who are backing your campaign, interested in your work, interested in what you're building, but perhaps not as knowledgeable as you are, or perhaps you just disagree. But understanding how to be like, that's a great suggestion, but it isn't in line with what we're doing. I mean, I use isn't, and probably that's not with a no, but you gotta, I'm not doing it right now, but you gotta figure out how to do that, and that's a great way to do it. This one's really interesting. Host a potluck dinner party where you select and pay for, but not make, most of the dishes. Your budget is $50. He says this builds 2 skills, project management and budgeting. That's a really interesting one because it requires you to, like, I don't know, find friends who like to cook and say, hey, I'm going to, like, give you money for... It's a little... I think that example's a little hard for most people to actually do, but just sticking to a budget and running a little project isn't. Hey, take on, something at your kid's school. They're running an event. Say you'll run the event, or you'll manage this. Managing something with a budget. There's lots of examples of that, but that your own budget, your own personal finance is perhaps a place to go. But I might try this potluck one just because having a potluck's fun, and we haven't done that in a long time here. Next is deliver bad news to someone. You can't always figure out when you have the opportunity to do this, but it really is a key skill you need to be able to handle. Jamey, just today, just on when I filmed this earlier this week, had to announce on Charterstone, perhaps going to be his biggest game ever. Looks like a fantastic legacy game. He ran into production difficulties because of how the cards have glue on them for the stickers you remove or whatever. However, he's making this amazing legacy game. The machines, when they cut it, they get goopy and they need to be cleaned, and it's slowing everything down. And because of shipping and timing dates, he had to go from like an October date to a November date, like early October, late November, December, like a big shift. And I mean, he has his Charterstone page with his 5,000 members, and they're all paying attention. And he has such goodwill, such transparency, such good communication that he's able to do that. But if you want to see a pro deal with how to tell bad news, how to tell everyone you're missing a date by a lot, he just had to do it between the time he wrote this and the time I don't know, maybe he knew about it. I don't know. Jamey, you're sneaky. 5, share something you made that you're proud of and ask people to tell you what they don't like about it, right? Deal with criticism. Find something you did or made or accomplished and get everyone to say, hey, this is what isn't good about it. Say a game you've done in the past. Don't ask what they like. Ask what they don't like. Ask what they think you should change. Ask what they think, what's the worst part of it. That's a big deal. I try to think about that and be critical about my own stuff all the way through. Actually, at one point, I was even thinking about doing a video where I trash my own games, but I decided not to. But I do it in my head. I don't think I want to film it and make it. I don't know. But I was thinking about it because you hear it. You have to absorb it and think about it from all different sides, whether they're professional reviewers or backers or pledge. I mean, criticism helps make things better, and you need to be open to it. Write a post that summarizes the top 3 highlights of your life from last week in a way that's interesting to other people. And this is learning how to distill information and share it. That's a good one. I really like that. Just say what 3 things happened yesterday or last week and try to make it hyper interesting and compelling. You could even try to make it clickbait if you want, just for the fun of it. But I think that's something. That's like the kind of thing you'd see in a viral sort of tweet or social thing where you're like, say 3 things, about yesterday that you did and make it sound like you were a superhero or whatever, because that's marketing. You're trying to make something sound fantastic, and it's also your ability to compress and summarize a lot of information into little bullets. That's really important. That's big on crowdfunding. Next up is 7. Sell something you own. Pick something from your house and sell it on eBay, Craigslist, whatever. Learn how to handle that deal with money. That is a great example. And it could be a used game. It could be an old game. It could be. I mean, it doesn't have to be relevant to whatever your crowdfunding. I think that going through that sales process of post, sell, deliver, feedback, I think I really like that one. I mean, I like all of these. I mean, he does tons of these blogs, but this one really stuck out to me as actionable, great advice. 8, print a random email you wrote 5 years ago and proofread it. This is just about both, proofreading your own stuff, seeing how you've changed, what you've done, what you've missed. I think having distance from it, you could probably take any email, anything you've written, old crowdsourcing campaign you've done, if you have never done one before. I think that's a good idea. I went back at some point, I found some email that I had written when I was in high school. I think it was a letter I wrote my parents making an argument on why I should get a new computer, I think. It was something like that. And it was me trying to be persuasive, and it was both entertaining, a learning experience to look back of it, and I sort of remembered my old self in a way. It's an interesting thing to do. So I think that's a good example. And again, proofreading your own stuff is important. This one's interesting. Number 9. Convince a stranger to tell you a secret. This is all about the skill of earning and repaying trust, which is critical. I think that's an interesting item. secret might be a weird one. You sort of like, hey, can you tell me a secret? It's sort of a weird thing to walk up and say to a stranger. I would translate that as, meet somebody who you don't know and have a conversation and actually have a revealing conversation with them. Learn something about their childhood, learn something about them, just engage and earn their trust so that they're comfortable telling you something personal. I'd probably just, replace secret with personal. And last one, this is his number 10, and this one's great. Spend a day answering every question online about a product before anyone else. Don't pick a product you make, but, if it's board games, pick a game you know well, subscribe to Board Game Geek and go through the forums and answer on social media. Just be on the front lines of helping and resolving questions for people. It's a really, really great way to engage, learn, and build a wide range of social skills. If you go back and watch my Paul Peterson Q&A, that's how he started his entire career in board games. He was on the email list or forum, whatever it was, for Magic the Gathering, and he was so good at being in front of everybody answering questions that they were like, hey, you want to come internally and help us out do this? And then he became a designer, has made some outstanding stuff. That's not to say that's what Jamey's suggesting here, but I do think it just points to the value of that skill. So those were his 10. Again, I think it's a great list. I really think go and read. It's 2 pages. Jamey's blog posts are great because they're pretty short. It's not like you're reading a book. It's like it's almost an email in a little bit. And not that like me saying you should go check out his blog is like. I can't imagine there are very many people who aren't. I don't know what audience I have that he doesn't, but I really do. Maybe you know about it, but you're not actually subscribed. They come through if you don't read them, you close them. But every once in a while there's a great one. They're all good, but I'm just saying like that is really you don't have to read every one to find one that's useful to you. I do want to add a few that I thought were good additions to this list. One of the things I don't think this conveys, and this is a little bit more on the product development side, is never settling. Always looking to make the best game possible. Always looking to understand how it could be better, and having your own critical eye, and that is one where I would say grab, and I'm trying to think of it in the context of he did it where it's like something very doable. I would grab one of your favorite games or a fantastic game or a game you love that you think is perfect, that you think is great, that you think is amazing, or really up there, your 10s. Take one and make a list of everything that's wrong with it, everything you don't like about it, everything that could be better. If you want to mix and match with some of his items here, you could take that list and then go online and argue why it's a bad game and why those problems. I mean, that just forces you to have a conversation that's uncomfortable. But I think just being able to look at games that are amazing, but might have problems. Like, I mean, I'm just looking over here. Like, I got a lot of sort of, not flack isn't a good room, but a lot of people who disagreed with me. Santorini, this is a great game, but I felt that it was overproduced. It was fantastic, but it takes so much to get this thing going and set up. It doesn't get played nearly as much. I play Dr. Eureka more in this house than Santorini, and they're very different games. But the point is, like, that was my problem. But it's a great game. I love it. It's amazing. But there are some issues with it, and I think you can go through and do that on everything, and it teaches you how to have a critical eye. Because that goes my next one, which I've said time and time again: play games, play games, play games, because that's how you build taste and an appreciation for how things are done. Play games, back Kickstarters, just awareness is amazing and powerful, and it builds your sort of flavor profile and pricing. It builds your whole sphere of information that you can compare and contrast with, and having that be big is great. The other one, Jamey sometimes calls me like, Ed, your thing's art, and actually, he's probably one of the first people that said that to me. I love art, and I'm often in a role of sort of project lead or creative director, but I'm certainly not an art director. Um, in sort of a traditional sense, in a sense of I've been trained as an artist. I'm not trained as an artist. Um, but he was sort of asking about, well, maybe there's some way for people to get good at that, and that's harder. You need to do lots of projects and have a critical eye. But one thing I was sort of thinking about in the weight of this stuff is when you see great looking art, when you see things you like, when you see a look, when you see an image that pops to you, save it. Save it to your desktop. Start making little collages of images you like in folders, in Word, and in a big Photoshop file. And just start slapping them together. Because the more reference you have, the better you can shortcut your inability to actually explain what you want. The biggest challenge for somebody that has a strong product sense or strong creative sense, but doesn't have any art skills, is a lack of communication to an artist to, say, I don't like that, or, it doesn't work. Can it, the anatomy on this character is a little bit wrong, or there's a, the scene, the more vocabulary, the scene balance, the lighting, the texturing, the render, the more you're able to understand art, the easier it is to communicate to the artist. But absent of that, being able to be like, here are my 4 references, artist, of things that I think this is what I want the game to look like, or I see what you're doing here, but you see how this one pops more? I can't tell you why it does, but it does. Artists get that stuff. They might not like this process and be, you got to have a good relationship with an artist, but that's a way for somebody who lacks fundamental art vocabulary to at least do a better job than saying things like, I don't like it. Could it pop more? It should be more fun. It's not interesting enough. Like, go ahead and drive artists mad if you want to do that. But I think when you see something good, just save it and pull it together and organize it is a great way to sort of improve your appreciation for art. Go to museums too, for what it's worth. Those are great places as well. So that's the list. Again, I don't know. Tell me what you think about this video. This is less of another perspective where I'm sort of cutting in to a conversation, and this is sort of more like, he said something cool, I agree with it. Now I'm going to say it again with a little more detail. But if that was interesting to you, if I added some color, let me know, because I can do more of these. Right now I'm really trying to figure out what kind of content is good and engaging and worthwhile to the viewers, the audience. So subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Make some great games. Thanks.